Mixed expectations from Auburn fans. Is Hugh Freeze under pressure to perform this season?
At you, Weekend Tailgate coming at you guys, brought to you by our friends at the Rage Room. Visit them at 1510 2nd Ave, Opelika, Alabama, or if you're in the Birmingham area, 2616 7th Ave South. Get your rage out. Look, don't go off on your boss, please. I'm seeing way too many videos on social media of people going absolutely crazy on their boss, losing their jobs, losing their families. Just go to the Rage Room. About $50. And you can get all that frustration out. Again, if you're in the Opelika area, you see the address there in Birmingham. They got you covered. Axe throwing up there for another kind of rage you got going. Also, join our community, the Green Name Gang, in the chat. If you're looking around the chat and you see a bunch of comments and you wonder why their names are green and yours are not, it's because you haven't done this yet. Hit that join button. $5.99 a month will get you there. Help keep the work that we're doing here going. We'll be at Media Days in a few months in Atlanta. You definitely want to be tapped into the War Report for all our Media Days coverage. You can also help somebody else make the decision by giving the gift of the War Report. Do us a favor. Hit that gifted membership button. And then if you don't have a green name, check your email. You're likely to be on the receiving end of one of these. I've learned from YouTube, especially if you are in the same chat where the membership is gifted. So if you have a black name and you are in this chat and a membership is given away, you are more likely to be on the receiving end of this membership. So please, let's help everybody have a green name here. Also, want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code reporter, get 15% off. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Our guy Richard, longtime sponsors of the War Report. Please go visit them. And our friends at the Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. You can find them at 3462 Crossroads, Sweet Eye, Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to the Renfro's Market and the Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault, helping keep the community fresh. Guys, visit our merch store at thewarreport.com and stay fresh with your Boog merch. As the season gets closer, your Boog should get higher, and you can Boog all the way out with a Boog hat, a Boog shirt, a Boog zip-up, a Boog hoodie. Born to Boog is what we're born to do as Auburn fans. No matter how many 7-5 seasons we see, we're going to Boog anyway. Help do that by buying some Boog merch. Check us out on podcasts, all the podcast platforms, the Auburn Express, Up-Tempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec pods. Bring you guys lots of great audio-only content.
Yes, indeed. Let's get into the conversation, Mike G. You had the pleasure of sitting down with Coach Hugh Freeze. For those that don't know, that interview is live on the channel right now. Don't go watch it right now. Stay in here with us if you're watching us live. Go watch it afterwards. It ain't going nowhere. But we are going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you discussed with him in that conversation. For the people who have not had the pleasure of watching it, though, give them the highlights of what you took away from that conversation with Coach Hugh Freeze that you had. This was Monday, I believe, that you guys sat down. Interview went live this morning. But yeah, talk to us.
First and foremost, I definitely want to thank our listeners. You guys tuning into our content is part of what makes this possible. You guys have helped us build an incredible platform. The program has recognized is deserving of the opportunity to sit down with the head coach and talk ball. Look, he doesn't have a ton of time. Like, nobody really gets him multiple times a year. but like ESPN maybe. And, for us to be able to get the time that we get every year is certainly a blessing, but it's made possible by our listeners. This year, it ran a little long. Normally, we block like 15 to 20 minutes max. He gave me an hour, and it was, he promised before we started recording to be as candid as he possibly did. But there was something that he wanted me to share with everybody that I want to lead with, and that's about his cancer diagnosis. As somebody who has been diagnosed with a disease that will never go away, I can tell you that it changes you. It changes your perspective on life, and it changes the way you see the world around you. And he really wanted to get this. He asked me to get this out there. Number one, he's doing well. He's never felt better. He said he's working out every day. His wife, Jill, has him on all kinds of special cancer diets. They're going to try to beat this thing with good nutrition and healthy habits, but they're watching it closely. I asked him during the interview, what tipped you off to the fact that something might be wrong? He said, I was just going in for a normal checkup, and he's got good, man. Everybody needs doctors like this that just saw something. I think he called it his PSA. It had upticked just a little bit, and they were like, that's not technically out of the range of normal, but let's just check it. And it turned out he had prostate cancer. They caught it so early, Ike. He's actually in a stage where you can afford to wait and watch before you make the surgery, have the surgery. There are some things that come along with having that surgery that I think, everybody wants to avoid, especially if you're a man with prostate cancer. And, he's prayed on it, and he feels like they're making the best decision in the interest of his family and his health. But he wants people to know that he is doing well, that he is prayed up, and that he is set to beat this thing. And I want to make sure that message is out there for Coach Hugh Freeze. Outside of that, man, we got into almost every aspect of the program, and the highlights are they brought him here to be the starter. He's going to be the starter. He has supreme confidence in Jackson's arm ability, his athletic ability, and his ability to process the game. I've never heard him sound so sure about a quarterback since he's been on the Plains. Now, he tried to sell us Peyton, but he was not as sure about Peyton as he is about Jackson Arnold. That, to me,
it reminds me a little bit, not necessarily as much of like his confidence coming in with Jarquez Hunter, right? Like hadn't coached him a game, but
exactly
the things that he was talking about in regards to Jarquez Hunter, you could just tell, okay, now this kid's a little different than other running backs I've coached before. Now, he wasn't as high on Jackson Arnold, like, oh, he might be the best quarterback I've ever coached type of thing, but the way in which he describes his confidence in him is drastically different than what he said about like any of the other quarterbacks that he's coached since he's been at Auburn.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great comparison that you made there. Came in supremely about Jarquez before they even had a practice. That is how he feels about Jackson Arnold. Now, they've had practices certainly before this interview, but as part of the reason why he brought him here, he did note there were two other schools mainly in the running for Jackson Arnold, vying heavily for his services. And, Jackson chose Auburn. And then when we delved into why, the wide receiver room had a lot to do with why Jackson Arnold chose Auburn. Those guys, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, I know they went out and got Eric Singleton, Malcolm Simmons. Those guys played a big role in why Jackson Arnold chose Auburn. And they feel like him plus them can equal something really special this season. Now, he would say that Deuce Knight is definitely the future. He's super coachable. He only cares about getting better every single day. And he understood where he was going to be in the pecking order coming into this season. It doesn't mean that it can't change midseason. But certainly having all these guys accept their roles. We even got into Ashton Daniels. You and I talked about this on a previous Auburn Express episode. What about Ashton? This is a guy who's played a ton of football. And he understands that he's firmly in a battle for QB2 as well. He expects to come in and compete. And so the fact that they got all these guys to buy into these roles, clearly knowing where they stood, I think it says a lot about where the program is at. At some point, every fan is just like, Deuce is not going to wait 2 years. He will if the guy in front of him is actually playing well. Because if he's playing that well, he's not going to last that much longer at the college level, Ike.
It happened. Listen, Arch Manning has been one of the most highly touted recruits coming out of high school at the quarterback position that we've seen in a while. He
Mm-hmm.
has the name recognition and the talent, and he sat behind Quinn Ewers and waited his turn
Yep.
because Texas was winning football games. And Quinn Ewers wasn't playing like, oh my God, great, but he was playing good enough where it wasn't a question that unless he gets injured, Quinn Ewers is going to be the guy for Texas. Right. And so you can't tell me that there's a model that exists right now of a guy seeing the starting quarterback position, going to another player and saying, it's not my time yet, I'll wait. And
Right.
again, I'm not saying that Auburn's going to have the type of performance that Texas has had over the last couple of seasons. I'm not saying that Jackson Arnold is going to play to Quinn Ewers' level of put you in contention for conference championship / college football playoff appearances. But I am saying there is a way to have a quarterback who might not be better than the guy sitting on the bench be your starting quarterback for multiple seasons, and the guy sitting on the bench waits because he understands what the process is before he's going to get his chance to be the guy.
Yeah, yeah. It was they've communicated expectations clearly, and that's what stood out to me about our conversation. Now we did talk about specific. We talked about DeMarcus Riddick being a guy ready to break out. We talked about Malcolm Simmons being a guy ready to break out. He talked about his confidence in DJ Durkin being the guy that can allow him to just be the CEO of everything else. They made him the second highest paid assistant in the country this offseason. And Hugh Freeze was thankful to the university for giving him the resources to be able to make that a non-worry this offseason. You have coaches that do what DJ Durkin did. Other programs are going to come calling quickly. And then suddenly the transgressions of Maryland, the further he gets away from that, the less it matters to potential hiring suitors. So Hugh Freeze understands high level what Auburn needs, I think, to be successful. But the most telling part of the interview, before we move on to why we're on tonight, was he acknowledges that the importance of year 3. Now, this is something that we talked about, and I will tell you, for our listeners, for those of you who listen and comment, part of the advantage to being regular listeners is that I made an ask. I said, hey, if you guys have questions for Hugh Freeze, put them in the comments. Only 2 people responded, and those 2 people got their questions asked directly to Hugh Freeze. I read their YouTube usernames and read their questions verbatim. We actually put them up on the screen during the interview. And you guys want to know, like, what does he see as a successful season?
Mm-hmm.
What does coach see as a successful season? Is it, 7 wins? Is it 8 wins? And respectfully, but I didn't want to let him off the hook. And he was like, it's hard to put a number on it. And I'm like, well, you can't miss a bowl game. He was like, no, we can't miss a bowl. Okay, so then there's a number. There's a number for what a failure of a season looks like, which means there's a number for what a successful season looks like. And those numbers may be close, but they exist. Vegas, I gave him a bar. Vegas set the over-under at 7.5. He said, well, if we win 7, what do those 7 look like? Now, where I do disagree with him, Ike, is I don't think there is a scenario where you only win games and we're sitting here thinking, but those were good 5 losses. Right. There's going to be 1 or 2 of there that's going to be head scratching. That's the way it goes. There's not an easy schedule in the SEC, but this is an easy schedule relative to what Auburn is used to. And he did say, look, man, 8 wins definitely acknowledges that we are moving the needle forward. And at 7 wins, we probably lost at least 1 game we weren't supposed to lose.
Right.
So he understands that the first 2 years were a disappointment, that fans deserve better. We talked about how fans showed up last year. They showed up, man.
Yeah.
Right. And the biggest thing that I wanted to get out of the interview was the admission that you did not miss a bowl game last year because of the talent gap. Now, 2 things can be true, which is what he said at one time. Yes, there is a talent gap, but yes, we could have coached some things better. But the talent gap isn't why you won 5 football games. Coaching is why you lost as 7. Or at least 2 of the 7, in my eyes. He pointed to pivotal plays that he felt like if we make plays here, if we make field goals here, all true things. So this was an extremely honest interview. I don't want to brag, but I want to say it's the most honest, forthcoming, in-depth interview he's done since he's been on the plains, where he just kind of laid it all out and said, look, man, here's where we own it. Here's where we have to be better. Here's where we feel like we are better. And then he in the camera at the end of the interview and said, we are going to do better for you. You're going to see a better product this year. We are so close to giving you, but hang in with us this year. It's going to be better. That's what you want to hear.
I am looking forward to seeing what that product looks like, because there is so much that needs to happen to get Auburn to the place where they need to be. But let's talk about one thing that he said during the interview that actually it's akin to what Devin just said. So I'll go ahead and bring her comment up right now. And she said, I loved what he said about pressure versus expectations. People really dogged on him about saying he doesn't feel pressure anymore. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. He just looks at it differently. And this was something that he talked about during the interview about year 3 and the pressure of the expectations that are there. And he reiterated that, yeah, he doesn't really see it as pressure, right? He says that, listen, if people are expecting that of you, they should expect that from an Auburn team, right? What did you think about his comments about feeling the pressure in year 3?
Yeah, I do like those comments. I think that he understands what the expectation is. And so to say, like, I don't really feel pressure means, to me, I understand what the expectations are. We're either going to get it done or we're not. But we feel like we have a great plan in place to get it done, and we'll go out and see if it works. But as far as pressure is concerned, I don't know that you want your head coach to feel pressure in the moment. As a matter of fact, we say it about players all the time. The best players just go out and do in pressure moments, but I don't know if they really feel the pressure.
Right.
They just do what they practiced 100 times. And if you're a coach, the equivalent of that, Ike, is when you prepare at a high level and you anticipate every scenario, and then that scenario comes up at the end of the game. And it's like, oh, well, we had a plan for this. We planned for this. So there's no pressure. We just have to go out and do what we know to do in this situation.
Right.
And if the players execute, then great. If not, then you lose. But, and he said he got dragged for this a lot. And you pointed this out, to your credit, repeatedly, where there was a good play call, but lack of execution. It was like, look, to the average fan, this is why we do the film reviews.
Right.
It's hard to see this stuff in real time, but I think you do a really good job pointing out to people, this was a good play call. The option was there. The guy was open. The throw was missed, or the route was run wrong, or something freakish happened that blew everything up.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and it's hard because, like, when you're in the situation, sometimes it's like, Mel, why did we do that? And it's like, well, if the play call works, you look like a genius, because it wasn't that it was a bad play call. It was just that in that moment, the execution was absolutely awful, right? And again, there are plenty of times where we can say, yo, that was a terrible play call, terrible decision. And that's one of the things I think I liked the most about a thing that he has been dinged for, in addition to what seems to be a lack of care about pressure, was this repeated idea that he was throwing his players under the bus. There was a lot of accountability in this interview. There was a lot of, now you didn't camp out there very long, but a portion of it, and you've already mentioned it, he owned, we could have done things better to win games last season.
Yes.
Right. It wasn't just on the players. It wasn't just on, again, you've already talked about this, but I liked to hear him say that, because I do feel as if he got a little bit, and has gotten a little bit, of an unfair rap as a guy who is unwilling to accept accountability. Like, throwing players under the bus, I think, is a pretty heavy charge for any coach to say, hey, this guy's throwing a coach under the bus. And there have been instances when it absolutely felt as if, yo, you didn't have to say that about that dude, right? Like, you could have said that very differently. This interview didn't feel like that. It felt like, listen, we could have done better, and the plan is to do better this next season.
Yeah, again, I will give you credit. You've repeatedly defended him on the accountability portion. I will tell you this. This is, I can't thank our listeners enough. Like, you guys make our ability to be able to sit down with the head coach possible. When you comment on social media, when you share, when you like, when you subscribe, all that makes that possible. And what we hope to give you back is when we get our turn to sit down with him, we ask the pressing things that you guys want to know, not just what we want to know. Now, because on our platform, it's more of a discussion between us and our listeners. Those two things are usually one and the same because we're just having a talk. That's what the War Report has always been about. It's been about real conversations about Auburn sports between not just media members now, but fans who are equally invested emotionally as you are in the outcome of what we see on Saturdays. Now, and where am I going with all this? Well, when we get a chance to run an interview, and this is not a knock to anybody else, but I am tooting our own horn a little bit. There were no gotcha questions here.
Right.
And I feel sometimes the lack of accountability comes off in him trying to answer a gotcha question honestly.
True. Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. Like they're asking him a question and they know him. So they know what he's likely to say, and that off the cuff, it's likely to come out like he's throwing somebody under the bus.
Yeah. I mean, to his credit, he's honest. And, if the question is, what do you think about your quarterback play? He's going to answer about his quarterbacks. I don't know what you want that answer to be other than, I felt like our quarterbacks could have done. You guys had 4 interceptions in the last game. What do hey, we're, our quarterbacks are out there doing blah, 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 this and this and that. The quarterbacks threw the picks. Like, what do you want him to say about if I would have called a different play, maybe they don't throw that interception. Like, I could say that, but the truth is you threw an interception or he'll say, well, hey, honestly, that's not on the quarterback. Receiver ran the wrong route. That's the truth of the moment. So I don't consider that throwing somebody. Like, we can look. Don't tell me what my eyes can see is not true. I saw the stuff.
I've been on this coach repeatedly about messaging, and I do feel like he's got to learn how in the moment of unfortunately us. Not everybody's looking. Not everybody's looking to get information. Some people are just looking for a soundbite. Right. So when they get a chance to ask a question, and there's some members in the media that I think do this really well when they get a chance to ask him a question. Like I love when Jacob Goins asks questions. I know he comes on the show, but he asks them honestly, and they're not gotcha questions, but they are sometimes tough questions. And I think Daryl Dapprich does a decent job of this, asking tough questions that are not homery, but also say, hey man, what happened here? Can you tell us what happened here? When we get a chance to set up an interview, and here's the part you guys don't see, is that we don't just sit down, start an interview, and start talking with any of our interviews if we can avoid it. There's usually a conversation that happens before the conversation. And in that for the interview, we catch up a little bit. How are things going? Tell me about Jill. Tell me about Coach, before we get started today, here's where I want to go with this interview. And I have to, in some ways, I get consent to go certain places before the interview starts. Are you okay answering questions about this? Because if you're not, what I don't want to do is ambush you with a question that you're never going to give me an honest answer to. Right? Because it's only going to make you look like a jerk. And it's going to leave fans confused about what your answer was. It might get clicks, but I think it's a better way to do that that gets both the honest answer. And that's what I think a lot of people saw from this interview it was just 2 guys sitting down to talk football about what actually happened on the field, about where his team is at. I see these interviews a lot of time, and it's clear that the person sitting down for the interview is not well researched.
Right.
So they're asking, Twitter questions, essential Twitter narratives, because they're not well researched, and those things could be true or false. When we got into the schedule, it was funny. He was just like, man, the schedule better than I do. Well, I think it's important because if we're going to sit here and talk expectations and pressure, your schedule has a lot to do with that. This schedule sets up favorably. Now, he didn't want to go there and say, oh, yeah, this is an easy schedule, we should kill it, which I did not expect him to do. But he did acknowledge that there's an opportunity in this schedule for Auburn to make the leap that he knows he needs to make in year 3.
Yeah,
when you lay it out for him that way.
Any time that you have Georgia and Bama at home, you're giving yourself a better chance,
Correct.
leaning on the fact that, we've got a great home field advantage, and we've got to take advantage of the fact that those games should go closer to our favor because they're
Exactly.
inside of a home environment. And yeah, to your point, he is like, we've got an opportunity this season, and I liked him saying that definitively, he said, we are going to be competitive this year. Like, there was no he's like, injuries might be but like, we should have a competitive product. Auburn fans expect to be proud of what you see us put out there on the field this season. And that's what I'm looking forward to saying. Like, man, yeah, they didn't go undefeated. And I think he acknowledged, like, man, I don't know that you're going to see people go undefeated anymore. Like, that's tough. When you started talking about, the way that the SEC schedules are set up, but we're going to go out there and we're going to make you guys proud, and it's going to be a lot of close games, but we're going to go out there and we're going to compete our tails off this year. I loved hearing him say that in that interview as well.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it's the only time of year you'll hear me toot our own horn this hard. But, the work that we do, Ike, you and I, the conversations literally every single day, the research that we put in, the film reviews that you do, the things that we do that nobody sees that makes the War Report go is part of what delivers an interview like that for our listeners. Every single day, you and I talk, we get plugged in to what's going on. We talk to our sources, we talk to players, we talk to coaches, right? We review the data, we get into the high level statistics. And then when we sit down with the head coach, we take all of that and we say, all right, here's what fans want to know. And let me lay the foundation for you to be able to answer this question. Maybe even giving you something that you haven't thought of or that you didn't know, but that is true about Auburn's schedule or about, where we stand historically in certain things. I wanted to lay, when we talked about quarterback, I wanted to lay a foundation for the conversation about when Auburn has been able to find a quarterback, put it in his mind before he answers my question, that it's been championship time. Jason Campbell, Cam Newton, he jumped in. It was like Nick Marshall, right? Like, clearly he likes Nick's game.
Right.
I mean, get this man to Nick Marshall right now.
Right.
Jarrett Stidham. I even threw Bo in there. I said, like, Bo didn't do it at Auburn, but clearly he had the talent to do it. When Auburn has been able to find a quarterback, it's been gangbusters, right? Can you deliver that guy?
Right.
Yeah,
that's definitely the question that he has to be able to answer is, has he found the quarterback that allows him to? And listen, he didn't say this, right? And so this is Ike Jones saying this, not Coach Hugh Freeze. So those of you who will go watch the interview later, you will not hear Coach Hugh Freeze say this. You will not hear Mike G intimate this. This is Ike Jones saying this. You notice he did not say any of the quarterbacks who he has had so far in his tenure have met that standard of those guys that you were talking about, right? Like, he didn't jump in and say, I think we had that last year with Peyton, but blah, blah, blah. He just, listen, let's be clear. I think Peyton Thorne's super talented, and I think he has a chance to make an NFL roster, but he's not the transformational type of quarterback that we're talking about. I think that changes the conversation around where your program's expectations should be. And, I think that he feels as if, and this is, again, not what he said, but he kind of hinted at, I think he feels like he's got one of those guys right now, whether it be Jackson Arnold. He said firmly, we can win games with Jackson Arnold. Or if he's got to turn it over to Deuce Knight can be that guy for Auburn as well. I think he loves where his quarterback room is right now and the potential that he has for seeing that room be transformational in the win-loss column for Auburn, not just in the we'll look a little bit better on offense. Like, we can absolutely win games with these guys at the helm.
Yeah. It's man, like, what a difference a year makes when you start talking about the tone of the head coach around his offense. Right. Now the first 2 years he talked about that talent gap, and we talked about this on a previous show about why Auburn didn't go out and make a serious run at Cam Ward. The number was too high, and it would have been an impediment to what they were trying to build for this year and next year in terms of getting the other guys. So they took a different approach. They said, look, if you're going to need, now remember, the number when we were talking about Cam Ward, which everybody thought was ridiculously high at the moment, was $2 million.
Right.
I want you to think about what's been happening this offseason and how small that number seems in comparison to what guys are demanding now.
Right.
Nico got put out on his ass, making 2.5 and demanding more. So if the numbers are going to continue to trend that direction in terms of what you need to go get a top level QB, Freeze said, you know what? For 2.5, I can go out and get a top flight wide receiver and that I have, from high school that I can develop. I can go bolster my O-line. I can fix that. And then I can go find a really, really good, talented QB that may not be a guaranteed Heisman contender, but will get the job done. So let's spend that money stacking the deck around him to set a safe floor for my QB. Protection, good running backs who can also block, so more protection, and great wide receivers with outstanding catch radius that can go out and win 50-50 balls and turn them into 80-20 balls. That's a better use of the money than spending $2 million on a single guy. And somebody made fun of me on social media for saying this, and getting Gust. I'm coining the phrase because look what KJ Jefferson cost Gus his job. You went out and you got this, you spent all that money on him in the portal and benched him by like game 4 or 5. He tanked his season on KJ Jefferson. So I think that Hugh Freeze said, I'm not going to do that because if I bring Cam Ward here and for whatever reason, he's not the dude. Now, in hindsight, I think a lot of people will argue that there's no way he wouldn't have done better than what Peyton Thorne did last year. He's certainly a more talented individual, number 1 overall in the NFL draft, man. So clearly his talent is of the higher echelon. But if you feel like you were more than a quarterback away, you don't go get that guy because it's not going to help you. He was always going to be 1 year, and you're trying to build a long-term sustainable winner.
Right.
So to see him talk about Jackson Arnold this way and to hear the plan for the money, man, let me tell you, there were so many things that we started to go down. We're like, look, this interview is going to be 3 hours long if he gets all his thoughts out. But he wanted to talk about salary caps and the money and antitrust protections. He said we had a plan at one point to start everybody with $100,000, put it in the trust. If you graduate, you can ball works out or doesn't. You have an incredible head start in life.
Right.
He said that most fans don't even know every time a player transfers, they lose like 20 to 30 credits.
Right.
There are so many things about the system now, things they can't do because the players don't have antitrust protections. But he also noted that the model that they're moving towards in college is going towards what the NFL is doing because they have rules in place at the pro level to ensure parity more often than not. And they don't have those rules in place in college, and he wants those rules in place. Let's ensure parity. Let's give teams more hope that at the end of the season, if they had a really good season, but it only resulted in 8 wins, they're not automatically eliminated from the conversation. That is the NFL model. We've seen wildcard teams make Super Bowl runs.
Right.
It's only possible if you have rules in place that keep the playing field level. And also, I love the idea about evening out the money so that players get paid. And then the conversation becomes about where is the best place to play football.
Yeah.
Again, it's just it's hard not to like where his head is at about so many things surrounding the future of the game. Man, I every time when I get a chance to sit down and talk with him one-on-one, every time I like Coach Hugh Freeze more as a coach. Now, I'm not claiming to know the guy. You and I had a really good relationship with Brian Harsin. He let us in a way that, most coaches don't. On the Plains, there are certain coaches that are just a little bit more open than others. Right. The head football coach is tough because he's so busy. He ain't had time to sit down and get to know you, man. Like, he's got a million things to do every single moment of the day. And we got very, very fortunate to be able to get an hour of his time. And when we, and really it was like an hour and a half, because I told you the time we spent before and after the interview talking. This was, I was, I was, I was humbled, and I feel blessed at the War Report that we were able to get that interview, because I really feel like it delivered to fans where the program is actually at, where they're headed, and what they're thinking. You got to hear exactly what the head coach is thinking on a wide range of topics that, quite honestly, you guys talk to us about every single day in the comment section.
Right.
We have some really smart listeners, and it was cool for the head coach to be able to hear from you guys. So I definitely want to thank WoolbyTube and D Kong, bunch of numbers. Yeah, I can pretend to remember how, like 6 numbers or something. Thank you guys for dropping your comments in, there. We take that seriously, and I made sure I got those comments in. I think he was happy to be able to hear from fans directly, and let's get behind this thing, and also, again, I can't stress enough, keep Coach Hugh Freeze in your prayers right now. Where his cancer battle is at right now, he's feeling good. He wants people to know that he's feeling good and that he has good doctors and they have a good plan for how he's going to fight his prostate cancer. So I can't stress enough, just a fantastic opportunity that we had, and we'll continue to follow, these narratives that he set going into media days. We'll follow up on a few things once Ashton Daniels is on campus. He noted Ashton arrives at the end of the month. A few other guys that will get here at the end of the month, and Auburn will really start to see what they have.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. We got some more we want to talk about in terms of expectations for next season, because On3 put out a list of coaches that have high expectations or the most to prove next year. We're going to talk about that list because Coach Hugh Freeze lands on the list. We're going to pay a couple of bills. We'll get right back. Before we do that, make sure that you all are sharing this content with somebody. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up on the video. Make sure you like the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. We'll be right back after this brief word from our sponsors, and we'll get into your comments on the other side of this. You are watching the Midweek Report.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageRoom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
You guys know the deal. I want to thank our title sponsor, The Rage Room. Please, if you're in the Opelika area or if you're in the Birmingham area, visit the addresses below. Show them some love. Get your stress out in a constructive but creative way at The Rage Room. Also, hit that join button. Join the Green Name Gang. We appreciate our community for helping keep our content going. Let's give the gift of the War Report, guys. See if we can get 20 memberships given away between now and the end of tonight's show. We appreciate everybody for doing that. Also, our friends at the Rogue Shop, visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off that Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Also, our friends at the Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. You can visit them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye, Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College and next to the Renfro Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. Check out our merch store at thewarreport.com. Lots of great book merch there for you guys. I recommend highly the hoodie. Now, I'm a hoodie guy, but if you don't feel like pulling over your head, there's a zip up there with a hood for you as well. Also, check us out on podcasts, every single podcast platform. The War Report is there, bringing you guys lots of audio-only content. So whether you're on your way to work, the gym, dropping the kids off at school, the War Report has you covered with all your favorite Auburn content in audio-only format. Last but certainly not least, if you're watching this on replay, do us a favor, hit the comment section and smash that super thanks button. We love our live super chats, but super thanks is a way to get in on that action after the fact. So many of you join us live. Not everybody can do that. We appreciate that there's this opportunity to support the work that we're doing in this way.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's get over here to the comment section really quickly. Of course, going to start out with the folks who paid a little change to talk to us, and we
Yeah,
appreciate that, man. You know what I'm saying? Super chat here from D Lebs, who says, Mike G, that was a great interview with Coach Freeze. Y'all always ask the best questions during interviews and press conferences. Keep up the great work. We will definitely attempt to do that, Mike.
You would be surprised. There are those in the world that feel like we don't ask the best questions, that we throw.
There are a lot of people who feel like we ask stupid questions, or that we are asking questions that are malicious in their intent,
all over the place.
You know, and it's just like I don't actually know how you can hear. Never mind. I don't want to get into it, bro. Like, what's clear is those people have an inherent bias, right? Like, it's not, you're not judging it based on the merit of what's being said. You're taking the person who's saying it, who they don't like, and now everything that you say has this slant of I don't like them, so there must be a dumb thing that they're saying, and it's just like, all right, that's fine.
The dichotomy between you guys are out to get Coach Hugh Freeze, and you ask him the easiest questions ever is so funny to me.
Yeah.
Right. People on both ends of the spectrum. Again, I hope this interview was informative for everybody, which is the feedback that we're getting. But I appreciate the support on the interview. Like I said, you guys help make these great interviews possible with your feedback and comments and participation.
For sure. War Dank Eagle says, in your interview, Freeze said they were trying to get a deal with Notre Dame done. How cool would a home and home be?
Now, this realistically might not happen until like 2030 or something like that. But yes, I love the idea of trying to get a home and home with Notre Dame. I don't know if Notre Dame's ever been to Auburn in the history of college football.
They have. I don't remember it.
Let me ask Brock here. But yeah, I think that would be so cool. He dropped that little tidbit very slyly, like it was nothing. Like, hold on, cuz a home and home with Notre Dame. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know if that had been public knowledge before he said it, but he definitely said it, and I was like, all right, hey, there's a little nugget for you that is out there. So I would love to be able to see that too. Did not get the opportunity when Auburn basketball went to Cameron Indoor, but hopefully, and I missed the opportunity, unfortunately, when Auburn went to Penn State. We were in very different. Now we were prepared to make the trip to Cameron Indoor. We just didn't get approved for that. We were in a different financial place when the Penn State situation happened. So I don't know that we could have made that without coming out of our own pockets. But hopefully by the time a Notre Dame situation is wrapped up, we'll be in we'll be in a different financial situation again then, where we'll be able to make that trip to South Bend, because I would definitely love to do it.
I was in DC during the Penn State. It was just, I don't know. I think that they just didn't approve it for whatever reason. That very rarely happens to us. I don't think it would happen again, but certainly there are
that was really early days in our channel, and I think we had been
just too new.
Yeah. So like I said, very different place now than then. Thankfully, again, I said this the other day on Twitter when Devin, who is a great member of our community, talked about how good the show was. And I mean it when I say it. I'm not really just saying this to blow smoke up you guys, whatever. Like we are, and Mike has said this repeatedly throughout this conversation, we literally are nothing without you guys coming on and contributing, right? Like it doesn't we probably would still do some of this stuff if we didn't have the membership base and super chats and super thanks and all this kind of stuff. We just couldn't do it to the level in which we do it without you guys continuing to support us in the way that you do, by watching it, by sharing it with people, by continuing to defend us when people are telling them all the war reports idiots. I don't know why you guys even pay attention to them, by continuing to pay memberships, by buying whatever ways you support us, whether it's financially or free ways by sharing stuff. We appreciate all of that stuff, man, because that allows us the liberty to continue doing this stuff. People in the chat all the time or in comments are always like, what happened to B Will? We can't pay B Will. We don't make that much money, bro. So if y'all want to see B Will back on the channel, we got to make more money so we can put money in that man's pocket. He got 2 kids out there he's trying to feed, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. So, but now we're going to continue doing what we do. And again, the support that you guys give us allows us the leverage and the liberty to do that sort of thing. The numbers make it make sense for coaches to say, okay, they've got enough people where when they say something, there's a lot of people who are going to listen to this. Maybe we might need to say it over there where they're talking. Right. And so That's a lot thanks to you all. A lot thanks to you all. So we definitely appreciate y'all continuing to do that. And again, hopefully we're in that financial position to head up to South Bend if that does go through whenever that happens. War Report membership gifted from Robert there. Thank you so much. Somebody gets a free membership on him. Miller House brings up a good point that was brought up in this interview is that is a good sign when Archie Manning wants your QB to attend the Manning Passing Academy. He made this was interesting to me because what he said was that he had to like call Archie and let him know like, hey, Arch, like he's not coming, my bad. So like that lets you know, like, I don't know why the Mannings were so big on wanting him to be at that thing, but like it was to the point where Coach Freeze had to be like, you know, Archie's a good friend of mine, but my QB's not coming this year. And he's dead set on wanting to do this thing here with the wide receivers. I thought that that was a big thing because it's one thing to say he doesn't want to do it, but it's another thing to say, we wanted him really badly. Can you convince him? He's like, nah, he's really kind of dead set on not coming because he wants to stay here. That put a kind of a slightly different tilt to me on the decision of Jackson Arnold to stay. And I respected it a lot more now with that context around it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Jackson made a really, really mature decision to say, I think my time is better spent developing chemistry with my teammates and getting in the playbook and, you know, then attending a passing camp that ultimately will have no bearing on how our season goes. So that is a team over me type of decision. And I love that from Jackson Arnold. Now look, if it helped Auburn in some way, then I'm all about it. Right. If you can sell me an angle where him going to a Manning Passing Academy helps with recruiting, or like maybe there was a strategy behind it. You know, I don't know if that's a current QB thing. I'm not pretending to know much about the Manning Passing Academy, but or passing camp. But like, if there were going to be potential recruits there that Auburn is looking at for when Jackson Arnold is gone, then maybe that's a reason for him to do that. But other than that, what does he get from that? Is he trying to fix something about his game that he can't do here with his teammates? I want to see him throwing balls to Cam Coleman 100 times a day. I don't care about what happens at a Manning Passing Academy. So I appreciate that he had the type of relationship, you know, with the Mannings where he just called them up and said, look, guys, I sat down, I talked with him about this, and he just feels very strongly that, you know, it's not a shot to you guys, but he really wants to buckle in here.
And he's got time, right? Like he can go to a Manning passing camp later. Like,
yeah. I don't know what the time commitment is like. Would it have been a whole week of his time, or is it a couple of days? If it's like a week, then I definitely agree with him not going.
Yeah.
A week is a long time in the summer, man. You know, when you're trying to get ready for a season and you're new to campus, this man probably doesn't even know where J&M bookstore is at right now. Like, a week at a passing camp doing what?
Does he know his way around the Haley Center yet? Have you learned the quad system, sir?
Sounds like a big time commitment to me, but whatever.
Yeah. Our guy Wolby said the interview was fire. He probably a little bit more fired up when his question gets up there on the screen.
It was a good question. You know, it was crazy because we talked a little bit about the substance of his question, but I definitely wanted to revisit it. And so, you know, we'll see if Wolby gets another question in here. But it's very interesting to me that he did go back there. And have you ever seen that clip with those two guys like passive aggressively arguing? And he was like, "You smell good, brother. What's that?" He's like, "It's deodorant." "What you got on?" "Burberry." And they start going back and forth. He's like, "First drink's on me." "How many?" 8, 9, 10. Like, they had the same energy when he was talking about wins. The over-under's 7.5, coach. He was like, "Well, let's go get 8. Let's go get 9."
Yeah,
you know, let's go get 10. I was dying. I might put something together comparing the two clips, but they had the same energy to me.
AU alum says, "Fun to get B Will back." Hey, listen, every
I
little
want
bit
to be
helps.
clarify, right? Like B Will's got a full-time job, and so like it's not about like it's about what he needs personally in his
Yeah,
personal
that's what I'm
life.
saying. Like
Yeah,
we can't pay him that kind of bread.
yeah. He want 100,000 a year. Y'all need to get these memberships up.
Yeah. Robert says, in y'all's opinion, does Jackson Arnold's skill set fit Coach Hugh Freeze's style of RPO better than Arbuckle's style of RPO? Arbuckle being the former offensive coordinator
Yes.
for Oklahoma, because they do both run an RPO system. There are differences in the way that they run the RPO. That might be something I need to dig into, really, about kind of what the reads are like in that RPO. And if we get an opportunity, I want to maybe get a quarterback in here to talk a little bit about that on film. I think that a couple of things in regard to that. The style of the RPO is really not what I think is a matter of whether or not it fits better. It's more so, I think he's got better tools around him this season than he had last season at his disposal to be able to make decisions that he can be more confident in.
Mm.
And that's really what it comes down to. Any quarterback in any system, doesn't matter what the system is, it's about your confidence in what you're seeing and then being able to execute it. He definitely has the physical tools to do the execution portion. I think last year was a matter of a lack of confidence in what he was seeing from protection standpoint, and then the people who he was throwing to not really being confident in their ability to execute routes and or completing catches and that sort of thing. So it made him gun shy more than he should have been. And you can't be in an RPO system. You got to read it and you got to throw it. Like, the decisions need to happen quickly or it doesn't work. And that's one of the things he talked about with Perry Thompson, right? About like the way he runs routes. Like, we need to both be seeing the same things and be making those decisions at the same time. And if I can't trust that you're going to make that decision when I'm ready to make the throw, it throws everything off. That honestly was an issue for Peyton Thorne. When he was ready to make some throws, sometimes guys weren't where they were supposed to be. When sometimes he needed to be able to pull the trigger on stuff, he didn't quite trust that they were going to do the stuff they were supposed to do. They got there, but because he didn't trust it, he wouldn't let it go. Right. And you can't do that in an RPO system. You got to have trust in receivers. You got to have trust in the plan of attack versus certain stuff. And that just didn't seem to work well last season for Jackson Arnold in Oklahoma, last year in Auburn for Peyton Thorne. Hopefully this season it gets corrected.
Yeah, what I would say is Hugh Freeze seems convinced that Jackson Arnold can do enough of the things that they need him to do well to fit the situations that they think they're going to find themselves in offensively. So when you ask the question, does he fit Coach Hugh Freeze's style of RPO? The answer to that question, or a better way of asking, is can he do the things that this coach needs him to do? Right? To run the types of systems situationally that they think they're going to need to run this season. And the answer to that question is a resounding yes. He's felt that way since Jackson Arnold was in high school. So this is not a guy who just got on Hugh Freeze's radar last year.
Oh yeah, for sure. He did make that clear. He's like, man, I've been recruiting this kid, or I've been watching him since he was in high school. Like, we're not new to Jackson Arnold as a quarterback.
Yeah. He's always felt like he fits what they want to do, or all the things that they would try to do. He also in the interview said that, like, look, I'm not scared of running the ball. I just don't want to run against bad boxes.
Right.
And when that happens, you need your quarterback to be able to do a variety of things in Hugh Freeze's offense, including
and you need wide receivers who can win one-on-ones.
Correct. Yes. And so can Jackson Arnold deliver the football, but also make the decisions about when to take off with his legs, or stay put, or take a sack, or throw the ball out of bounds? And the answer to that is yes. So, I think the question is less about system and more about the totality of his skill set and how he processes the game. They feel like he does so many things well that if they coach it right and execute it and they make the right calls, Jackson Arnold should be a star.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how it pans out. Another super chat here. I don't even know if we're gonna get to this second topic here, Mike.
Yeah, you guys keep these super chats coming.
Listen, man.
I really
not
want
just
to be
the super chats. You got you guys are making some really good questions here. Robert says, oh, I've already read that one. Sorry, my bad. Just didn't take that off of the screen. Keep Aiden in Tuscaloosa says, if Hank Brown was still on the team, he'd be QB3.
Undoubtedly. And that's not a shot at Hank Brown.
Yeah,
but
I think that's I think Deuce Knight is still QB. Question, I mean, because I think somebody later in the chat said, would Jackson Arnold be here, or I mean, let's talk about, because we mentioned this with the Cam Ward situation, and I was talking about this either on a previous show or in the chat, a comment section with someone about Cam Ward, and I think we said it on a previous show about what him coming last year would have done to this quarterback room going into this season, right? It changes that quarterback room immediately. Like if Cam Ward comes last year in the transfer portal, Peyton Thorne does not play for Auburn last year, which again, in hindsight, who cares, right? Like Cam Ward would have been the better quarterback and Peyton Thorne wouldn't have been on this team. But I also don't know that you can convince Hank Brown and Holden Geriner to stay if Cam Ward becomes, because, and I'll say this out loud, knowing what I know now, both of those guys felt pretty good about the fact that they'd have a shot last season because they weren't sure that Peyton Thorne was going to be the guy. So they felt like, all right, I'm a bad game away from probably getting a shot here. I just need to be QB2. Both Holden Geriner and Hank Brown felt that way going into last year's competition. Cam Ward comes, neither of them feel that way. They know that the only shot that I have to play is injury, and Walker White is for sure, in the estimation of these coaches, the heir apparent. So like my shot has to come now. I need to get my shot here. I don't know that either of those guys stick around in that. Maybe Hank does because he was less highly recruited out of high school. But you don't keep Holden, you don't keep Peyton Thorne. And then going into this next season, you still have to go to the transfer portal because, again, in hindsight, you realize neither of those guys were really the answer for you going into next season. Walker White wasn't ready. So you probably are in the same situation this year with a couple of more wins. But to the question about Hank Brown, if he stays, is he QB3? You'd be in a Jackson Arnold, Hank Brown, Deuce Knight. I don't know if do you think which caller from Stanford still comes if that's the QB?
Daniels? Yeah, it's tough, right? Again, one of the superpowers that Hugh Freeze has displayed here is getting these guys to commit, but getting everybody to buy into the roles that they're walking into with almost kind of a predetermined pecking order.
Right.
And I think when Deuce comes, you don't know what he's going to be. It's hard to predict how freshmen are going to adjust.
Right.
I think this staff thought that Walker would adjust to what they were trying to do faster than he did.
Right.
When he did not, and it was clear to them that either they weren't coaching it right or like he wasn't picking up fast enough or whatever. I'm not saying what did or didn't happen there. I'm just saying it didn't seem like it was a good fit for where the program was at the time. Walker had to move on. So you get Deuce is coming in, and I think that they thought that he was going to be more. I heard that repeatedly in the comparisons to him and Juju Lewis. That Juju was more ready to play now, and that Deuce would be more of a project. I think Deuce heard all that noise, and he does. Now everybody's changed their tune about Deuce.
Right.
A lot less of a project than they thought he was going to be, a lot more mature, a lot further along, a lot better at picking things up and processing the game, and clearly ahead of where Walker was this time in the spring when he came to Auburn. Way ahead in the coaches' minds. Because I never heard any of this about Walker White. Like we heard about his talent ceiling, but in terms of his progress towards reaching that, it almost felt like he made none from what we were hearing from the staff. Now we're hearing all those things about Deuce. So when Ashton comes, you're thinking, all right, we don't know that before Deuce gets on campus. So you go out and you try to get a guy like Ashton Daniels, who you know is not going to be here until the summer, but sets a safe floor for you in case Deuce isn't ready. And now Deuce is making it Deuce made it a conference. Not only did he make it a conversation, he almost made it a foregone conclusion that he may be the guy, the next guy up.
Right.
If he can be ready enough by the time his number is called, if it's called.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. Like if Jackson Arnold balls out, that's Auburn's ideal scenario.
Correct.
As a fan, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for the best Jackson Arnold. I'm hoping for top 3 rounds of the draft NFL Jackson Arnold for 1 to 2 years. And then I'm looking for Deuce to step redshirt, save a year eligibility, go into 2026, still holding on, Ike, to 4 years of eligibility, and then possibly stepping in that season or the season after as the clear heir apparent.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the ideal scenario. And I think that that's the plan that this coaching staff has for it. But again, that's on whether or not Jackson Arnold's got a lot to say about that right now, whether or not he's going to be the guy ready to step into that sort of mantle. But back to the comment here, in this scenario, let's just say Ashton Daniels still does come. And he's, I think that if Hank Brown had stuck around for this spring, he doesn't make it to the fall. I think he would have hit the second transfer portal window, seeing as how Deuce Knight, I think, would have made it a clear indication he would be a lot further along than they thought. I think that they would bet on Deuce Knight's ceiling versus Hank Brown's ceiling coming out of the spring. And Hank Brown would have left after the spring and gone somewhere else. So I think Hank Brown, to answer the question, would he be QB3? No, he'd be QB1 or 2 on somebody else's team. Still.
Yeah. It's crazy to me. Hank is very talented. I know he
Super
went out
talented.
to Iowa, and he's got a great arm, and all the things about Hank Brown to me were just about, again, processing the game. I'm not sure that the coaches put Hank in the best position, right? Like, last year, I thought they pulled the plug on him too early during the Arkansas game. And, there were some things I thought they could have done there better with Hank. But if you need ready-made QBs, go out and get those guys, right? Like, if you need QBs further along, and this is where, I said this during the interview, but I'll shout out our friend Josh Pate. He says this all the time. He said, look, man, he started including Nick Saban in the conversation, but it's moved on, and it's really about Kirby Smart. Now, you're not going to outdevelop him unless you close the talent gap significantly. But you're not going to recruit a bunch of 3-star guys and consistently beat Kirby Smart. No, you need 5-star dogs, and then you can try to outdevelop your 5 stars over his 5 stars.
Right.
So,
because every 5-star is not going to be a surefire guy, right? And so you got to put your guys in the right position to be able to be successful.
Correct. Yeah. And it feels like the program needed that as a basis. Otherwise, I mean, look, I will point, I use this as my example. I will point to Arizona State. They had a great season. They had a phenomenal season. As a matter of fact, but nobody expected that season from them. Nobody saw Cam Scatterbu coming this season. And because they were picked to finish dead last out of 16 teams in the Big 12. And after their great season where they almost pulled off the upset of the century in the playoff, Kenny Dillingham got on the microphone and said, please give us money or we can't keep this going.
Right.
Immediately, he started asking for NIL money. He said, if you like what you saw, it's only sustainable with dollars. So I can close the talent gap and then continue the sort of development that you guys saw this year, but just with better guys. And that's not meant to be a knock to the team he had, but it's just a reality of the situation.
Right.
You cannot develop 2 stars into 5 stars. There's not enough of those guys out there. I think back in the day, Tommy Tuberville did a really good job of finding like 2-star guys nobody else wanted and that were really like 4 or 5-star guys, especially defensively. But it always catches up to you, man, in big moments, right? Like when the gap is that big, and Hugh Freeze understands that. So, look, Hank, I just don't think he was the 3-star or 2-star, 3-star guy that was secretly a 5-star guy.
And I just don't think from a physical tool standpoint, he quite had all of the stuff that Coach Hugh Freeze likes, right? Like, it's becoming increasingly clear to me
He can't
that,
move like his guys.
yeah, like he likes the quarterbacks that can make something happen with their legs. He just does. Like, it's not necessary. And I repeatedly said this about an RPO system. That's not a requirement to run the RPO, but Coach Hugh Freeze likes that element in his quarterbacks. Like, he doesn't need the most elusive guy in the world, but he wants it. If the play breaks down, that guy can go get me an unexpected 15. I think above all the other things, that is the reason he liked Peyton Thorne the most out of it's like, I'll deal with Peyton overthinking some stuff every now and then, but you know what he can do? If this protection's going to break down, he's out of there. And he can go pick up some yardage with his legs. Hank Brown could not do that for you. Holden Geriner could not do that for you. They just couldn't. Their arms are better than Peyton Thorne's. Their legs were not. And it showed me how much Coach Hugh Freeze really values that ability in his quarterbacks. He absolutely values it.
Yeah. Look, man, no knock to any of those guys, but I think that having the guys that you need, type of guys you need, is so important. It's part of why you saw Auburn empty the quarterback room this offseason.
Right.
And just start over with a blank slate with guys who maybe are a better fit. Because when you're trying to catch up, you take who you can.
Right.
Once you caught up, you take who you want and who you need. And Auburn was in a situation, I think, the last couple of years where they had to just take who they could. Yeah. Now that they're in a stronger position, it's like, all right, I ain't jumping no grenades tonight. I'm going home with Opji.
Listen, man, last couple of seasons, it was last call at the bar, and I'm just looking for whoever the beer goggle says is acceptable.
This is right now. Yes,
yeah.
For sure.
But right now, Auburn has transitioned into a place where, man, it's a couple of girls I already kind of hit it off with before this last call. I just got to pick which one of them I want to. Eventually, Auburn's trying to get into the place where you walk in and the women are like looking for you. Not quite there yet. Quite there yet. But we're out of beer goggles phase now.
Yeah. They're competing to take you home at the end of the night, right? Like, it's a very large leap that they had to make. And they started at step 1 and they progressed slowly through the steps. Step 1, step 1.5, step 1 and 2/3. They've gone at this slowly and methodically. And there have been some bumps along the way. But I'd rather see this slow winner built Ike than the flash in the pan, like, here's a great season out of nowhere, and then everybody suddenly thinks Auburn is a winner. Because, part of what Arizona State may have this year is fool's gold. But the coach knows it. He knows they don't have the talent necessarily to consistently sustain that sort of result. So if you're expecting Arizona State at the top of the Big 12 standings every year, Scadaboo's gone already. You didn't see him coming this season, and now he's gone. So if you're telling me there's another Cam Scadaboo just laying around on the roster, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying
it. If he is laying around on the roster, whoever is recruiting running backs from Arizona State will have a new job by the end of the year.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah, that guy's gone. He's gone for sure. He's taking a job at Auburn.
Yeah, he's going somewhere that they're going to pay a heck of a lot more money to be able to recruit, to be able to find gems like that on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Arizona State can't keep that guy employed.
For sure.
So.
For sure. I do Locked On UCF, and I sung RJ Harvey's praises and got ignored by most people until he got taken in the second round. And now everyone's like, oh, well, I thought he had first round talent. I know he's a little undersized as a back, but he got overlooked because UCF was a 4-win football team. They've recruited pretty well at running back. And like I said, at certain positions, Auburn has done really, really well. They've started, DB and wide receiver have been outstanding over the last couple of years. If we just give them a pass on Shorter and Shane Hooks and whatever that was, Right. I'll give them a pass on that because that was definitely we got to take who we can and not who we want type of situation. But they turned that around the very next recruiting class.
Right.
Right. They didn't continue that. They went out and they got like top 50 guys. And they're projecting to do even more of that in the future, man. Cam Coleman's got 2 years left before he's going to be in the NFL. As soon as he's draft eligible, he's gone. I don't see him playing. There's no way he plays beyond 3 years in college.
I'd be highly surprised. And if that's an indictment on a lot more, like if he has to play a senior season, it won't be at Auburn. Let's just say that.
Yeah, you need your next Cam Coleman in the pipeline right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a Phoenix City kid.
Right.
So, like, you need him in the pipeline now. It's what LSU has been doing at wide receiver seemingly forever.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry.
Right.
Those guys were dynamic. And every other year, they're producing a tandem of wide receivers that are generational.
They've been on quite a tear. Ole Miss not Ole Miss. Screw them. Ohio State is entering that conversation right now too.
I co-sign all Ole Miss.
We got a couple more super chats here. We are not going to get to that other topic. We might just need to save that for an Auburn Express episode because we have plenty there. But Keep Aiden in Tuscaloosa says, go back in time 18 months. If Coach Hugh Freeze might have had this choice, 1 year of Cam Ward or 2 to 3 of each of Champ Anthony, Malcolm Simmons, good choice looking back. Yeah, I mean, listen, you could have gotten a good year out of Cam Ward, or what they chose to do is take the Cam Ward money and spend it on 4 or 5 guys to make sure that you've got depth at a couple of positions that you need depth at. And really that's the difference between, hear me out, the difference between perennially good teams and flash in the pan teams that are good, which has unfortunately been the Auburn story, where it's like every now and then you pop up and you're really good. Perennially good teams have built depth. And in the NIL era, it's difficult to build depth unless you have a really good plan. What I loved hearing from Coach Hugh Freeze is they sound like they have a really good plan for how they're going to continue the depth. Now, you got to make some wins again happen this year, or guys are going to just be like, look, you guys do have a really good plan, but when is this plan going to turn into something substantial? But yeah, I think his plan was a long-term bet as opposed to short-term success that frustrates the crap out of some fans watching last year's ineptitude. But you kind of need to be able to do that if you want to have your job more than 4 years. Yeah. You got to plan beyond 4 years.
Your coach is your coach. Right. Hugh Freeze is the coach, and he's got his shortcomings just like certain players have their shortcomings. But to reinforce those shortcomings, he needs that recruiting base of talent to be as high as possible. Right. Because he's going to need that leeway when it comes to playing the better teams in this conference year in and year out. When you're going up against Steve Sarkisian and Kirby Smart, and even Lane Kiffin from time to time, like you're going to need that cushion. And he understands that, so he's going to go out and get it, and that's it. Auburn's given him the resources to do it, and then once you get to the level where your talent is so good that you're winning games you probably should lose when they're poorly coached, and it comes to those big matchups, you're going to find out who you have in a coach. We've seen some epic battles between Georgia and Alabama over the last few years. Like if you think about even predating, I don't know, Kirby's been there for a while, but it feels like we've seen just some massive, and Alabama was always just a tiny bit ahead of Georgia until they weren't. Some of those games where it felt like they had it won in the at least two SEC championships that came down to the wire.
Right.
Games there, it was incredible to watch two recruiting behemoths go at each other in these big games, and Nick Saban always had that little bit of extra. As a matter of fact, I think Kirby's only beat Nick like one time straight up.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I don't know what the exact record is, but I think that's right.
And to have multiple championships while doing it is crazy. Yeah. He won 2 straight national titles and somehow got away with only beating Nick Saban once during that stretch.
Right.
So I'm amazed at the coaches that can do it, but like Nick has always been able to find that little bit of extra when the talent is even to get his team over the hump, or they have that one extra player that's just a little bit better than your one extra player. The margin for error is so thin, and you have to reduce all the different margins or get really, really lucky to beat those teams. Not only do you have to be better than you normally are, they have to be worse than they normally are. But if you're going to win a game where both teams are playing at their best and both coaches are coaching at their best, like, you can't have these self-imposed handicaps where you didn't recruit as well as them. You can't. So, that's what Hugh Freeze is doing. But it's going to take time, Ike. And I think that's what he's been trying to do these first 2 years, is buy himself the time to build that. He knows it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to catch up to those guys on the talent front. And the portal provides you a little bit of a shortcut, but I still feel very strongly you can't cheat the real recruiting timeline, which is high school.
No, it's going to be a Band-Aid at best, because that stuff kind of catches up with you. Keep Aiden in Tuscaloosa back again says, oh, nope, that's the wrong one. I already looked at that one. Christian Milan says, can we keep Deuce if Jackson kills it this year with the talent around him, which I think he will? So this is a question, and this is somebody asked this earlier in the chat, and then actually someone asked this question in one of our comment sections about, if Jackson Arnold is good this year and returns next year, does Deuce Knight stick around after that?
Yes, because your situation this year is not different than it was when you committed. As a matter of fact, it's the exact same situation. The only reason that you leave if you're Deuce is if you think Jackson's going to stay another year past 2026. But you came into this situation understanding with eligibility and all that you might have to sit for potentially 2 years. I don't see how his situation would be much different unless somebody is throwing a huge bag at him to leave.
Right.
A massive bag. But I don't know where that would come from. He's already going to be getting a bag here at Auburn, but I don't know where a much more massive bag would come, because it wouldn't be based on anything he did on the field. Presumably in this situation, he hasn't played much.
Right. Yeah, he would have likely redshirted. And so, like I said, to me, the only scenarios that don't work in your favor would be akin to the Peyton Thorne scenario, where year one was supposed to be kind of a one and done, or year two was like we're going to do this 1 year, and the second year, maybe I raise my draft stock type of thing. But it just goes disastrously wrong in year one. You only win, 5-6 games. But Jackson Arnold isn't so terrible that the coaches have lost faith in him and they bring him back another year. And Deuce is like, man, I'm not sitting another year behind this dude who's not better than me, right? Type of thing. And we're not winning games. So I think that, or like you said, you get into a scenario where just the money becomes something he can't turn down, right? Like somebody's offering him way above market value. And this is not about Deuce Knight's talent. This is about what he would have shown at that point in time on the field. And he's just like, yo, I love you, Auburn, but bro, I can't turn this down. And then but I don't know. I just don't know that Deuce Knight's that kind of kid. I haven't had an opportunity to talk with him, but hey, listen, that some paychecks might be a little bit too much to turn down. So
yeah, it was interesting. I had a conversation with UCF's quarterback commit Kane Archer for 2026, and we talked about NIL, and he said something interesting to me. He said, I have not even talked money with UCF. Like he said I don't look, the money, if I ball, the money will take care of itself. And I thought that was I think that's an interesting comment in today's day and age, coming from a recruit that is thought to be the bedrock of a class. Now, Kane is not a top 50 guy right now, but he's got a lot of talent. I watched his tape, and there are some of these guys who they understand the money's going to take care of themselves, so they're just kind of focused on playing football.
For sure.
Coach Freeze talked a lot about making the money even so that you're recruiting on the traditional tenets again. Opportunity, culture, the school, your degree, like all those things. That's what they want to be talking about. He actually said, I don't want to know what they make. I just want to coach them.
Yeah. He's like, listen, man, I got a GM. Let them handle all that kind of stuff. I want to go in. I want to talk football. I want to talk life. I want to talk all the things that are going to matter beyond this paycheck. Like, yes, I want you to make money, but I don't want to have that conversation.
Facts.
Last one here. Tim says, get us off these jobs movement back for 2025. That was a B Will staple of saying, get us off these jobs. Listen, man, B Will is doing well. I talk to him probably once or twice a week, on average. That's my guy. He still loves you guys. And he actually, I can say this with confidence. He said he's going to try to be here more for like some football season, whether it's pregame or postgame. So we'll be back coming up this fall. So don't sleep on him too hard. He's gonna try to get back in here.
It's primarily just Ike and I work in the business from an administrative standpoint, day in and day out. So B Will and Caesar both love their day jobs and they're doing well. But we certainly can't wait to get those guys back for the conversations I know are going to be happening this fall around this football team.
For sure. All right, Mike G, tell the people ways that they can support in case we can throw a couple of extra dollars B Will's way.
You guys know the deal. If you're watching this on replay, do us a favor. Thanks button in the comments. Great way if you missed the chance to get on one of the many super chats that we got here. We do recognize those super chats either on future shows or on social media. So smash that super thanks button. It's the little heart money icon out next to the comment section there. If you guys are commenting after the video, I want to thank our title sponsor, the Rage Room. Visit them at 1510 2nd Ave in Opelika, Alabama, or if you're in the Birmingham area, 2616 7th Ave, Birmingham South. 7th Ave South, in Birmingham, Alabama. That's downtown Birmingham. Get that rage out, but in a constructive way with our friends at the Rage Room. Also, smash that join button. $5.99 a month will get you there. We have lots and lots and lots of paid members, but we could always use more. I had a couple of memberships given away. Check your email to see if you were on the receiving end of one of those gifted memberships. But also, just join straight up, guys. I promise you won't even feel the $5.99. It's less than Netflix right now. And I don't know if you noticed, Ike, but Netflix is raising their prices again. We're not raising our prices here. $5.99 a month. You don't want to miss the film reviews during the season. These are probably some of the most valuable patron content that we put out. Ike spends a lot of time breaking things down for you guys so that you can see in slow-mo. And sometimes when we're able to get the all 22, you see angles that you cannot see on TV when we can do that for you. So I know this is probably the favorite thing that he does for the channel is breaking down film for you guys. Yeah, so you can help support that work by joining as a member. Also want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORTER to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. So don't go off on your boss. Visit the Rogue Shop. They'll help calm you down. Also, the Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants, helping keep the community fresh. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye, in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across from the community college and next to the Renfro Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault, great place to go get a cut. I'm headed there tomorrow to get fresh for the weekend. Also, want to thank our friends. Thank our friends. Also, want to let you guys know about the merch store. Visit thewarreport.com and get your Boog merch today. After talking to Coach Hugh Freeze, sounds like there might be plenty of reason to Boog, and you want to be in Jordan Hair this fall with your Boog merch on, letting people know that you're booging hard. So go to thewarreport.com. You can support the work we're doing by buying some merch. Also, you can support us by listening on podcasts, all the podcast platforms, the Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, and Just the Sec Pods, bringing you guys lots of audio-only content. Now, we talked a lot about the support that you guys give us. One of the easiest ways to do this is to simply just listen. So if you don't want to sign up for a membership, you don't want to buy any merch, guys, just turn the War Report on and let it play. And it helps even on podcast if you set automatic downloads if you can. That helps us. So not only subscribe, but turn on those automatic downloads so we get credit for those pods. We appreciate you guys for supporting our work there. You guys know the deal, man. Smash that subscribe button. We appreciate our community for always being there for us as we continue to grow the work that we're doing here. Media Days is coming. We're going to be there all week as we are every single year. You're going to be there with us virtually. And as you guys subscribe and comment, it helps us keep that going.
For sure, for sure. Before you get out of here, make sure that you share the content with somebody out there so that they can be a part of the conversation. I want to hear your thoughts down there in the comment section for sure. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are at The War Report on X and Instagram, TW Report on TikTok. We are going to get out of here, but we'll be back with more great Auburn Express content later this week. I still got some film stuff coming up for you guys tomorrow, so make sure that you are tapped in with that. Green Name Gang. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle, go watch that Hugh Freeze interview if you haven't. Peace.